Speaker, residents of my riding have contacted me and my team to express their frustrations with the delays they experience when contacting the CRA.
It was so loud in there.
It was so hilarious in there. I could not stop laughing. I was almost crying.
Today's our last day in Ottawa, so we went to question period again. On the way, we ran into one of the staffers that we've met, and he told us that today was going to be epic. Everybody was going to be there, and we would get a kick out of it, and boy was he right.
Let's take a look.
Oral questions, questions orales, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister is in Mexico today for a photo op and fake agreement, but it's a great opportunity to compare because both countries are neighbors of the United States. In the last quarter, Canada's economy shrunk by 1.6%, while the Mexican economy grew by 2.4%. Wow. The Canadian exports to the United States crashed by 18%, while Mexican exports to the U.S. are up 1.4%. Wow. And the Canadian unemployment rate is 3 times higher than Mexicans. Wow. Will the Prime Minister ask his Mexican friends what they're doing right that he's doing so wrong?
Right.
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister believes in having a strong relationship with Mexico, our second biggest trading partner. That's exactly why he is in Mexico today, meeting with the President to make sure that we can have our trading relationship really on par. Now, the other thing that the Leader of the Opposition needs to understand is that we're living in a much more dangerous and complicated world with trade tensions having impacts on trading partners all around the world. We will stand up for workers, we'll stand up for our businesses, and we'll build Canada strong.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
So Pierre is 100% right. There is no point to this trip at all. Why is there no point to this trip? Because we have something called CUSMA, which is the Canada-US-Mexico Free Trade Agreement. What are you negotiating? Like, seriously, what? Because these are agreements that have been in place. It's the same thing as going over to Europe and signing these quote-unquote trade agreements and throwing out these numbers like 30 billion, 70 billion. Here's the thing. Canada can say that we're signing these multi-billion-dollar agreements with these countries all we want, but the most important aspect of this is Canadian companies actually have to be the ones doing the trading. The Canadian government can't just say, oh, well, you know, all of Canada's businesses are now going to be trading through the US or through Europe instead of the US. That's not how this works. It's not how it works at all. What the federal government is supposed to do is negotiate the trade relationship with these other countries. And if there's already free trade with these other countries, then what's the point?
This is the time in the life cycle of any Liberal government when they go from making promises to making excuses. So they're blaming their collapsing economy on global tensions. But interestingly, Mexico shares the same neighbor as we do. We're both right next door to the Americas, so we can compare performance. But in the most recent quarter, the Mexican economy has actually grown by 2.4%. The Canadian economy down by 1.6%. Our unemployment is three times what theirs is. Why?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, what is shocking from the Leader of the Opposition comments is always talking down Canadian workers, Canadian businesses, the Canadian economy. You know what? Good news is the Bank of Canada yesterday reduced rates. We should all be celebrating that. This is good news, Mr. Speaker. And we will be there for businesses in the tariff sectors, including aluminum, steel, auto, copper, and all the other sectors, because we know that these workers are important, these businesses are important, and we have a plan to build Canada strong.
We will be there for these sectors.
Man, the heckling and the jeering in the house while Melanie Joly was speaking was unreal. Like, you could not hear her. You had to listen through the translation device, even though she was speaking English. Just the stupidity that came out of her mouth was unprecedented. I don't think she realizes that when the banks put the interest rates down, it's not always a good sign. In this case, it's not. The banks are trying to avoid an economic crash in housing.
Yeah, usually how it works is if interest rates are being brought up, then that is the bank trying to put the brakes on spending in the economy, because inflation is usually going too high. When the bank cuts interest rates, that means that there's not enough new money going into the economy. So it's trying to promote spending.
Right, and there was a report that came out either today or yesterday in Global News, I'll put the link in the description, that says that Canadians are spending less overall, including on credit cards. So even though interest rates are going down, Canadians are not spending the money.
And at some point, one of the Liberals says, oh, you know, this is great for Canadians and their mortgages. Well, except it's not, because a lot of Canadians, and I mean a lot of Canadians, got their mortgages way back in 2020 and 2021, and they got those mortgages on fixed rates. So these mortgage changes actually don't affect those Canadians at all. Those Canadians, and they got their mortgages at such low rates that they are now terrified of the renewals coming the end of this year and early next year. The mortgage crisis is coming for Canada, and it's already rearing its head for the people who bought in 2020. And spending during COVID didn't actually hit its peak until the winter of 2021. So this is actually where we're going to see the most damage to the economy and to the mortgage market, because you're going to see all these people who can't afford their mortgages and are going to try and sell their homes, and if they can't, they may actually foreclose on their homes. So this is the issue. And then when she says, you know, the Conservatives always trying to talk down the economy. Well, when the economy keeps going in the crapper, are they supposed to celebrate? Because that would be irresponsible.
No, they're supposed to do what the Liberals are doing and gaslight us all into thinking that everything is just fine. Canadians may not like the reality of our economy right now, but we deserve to know the truth.
And we have to face it.
Member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
Food inflation is up 70% since the Liberals took office. Groceries are up 3.5%. That's 70% above inflation target. Beef up 33%, canned soup up 26%, grapes up 24%. The Prime Minister said Canadians would judge him by the cost at the grocery stores. The new report from Food Banks Canada gives Canada a failing grade on food insecurity. He has failed. Does the self-proclaimed great economist Prime Minister think that long lines at the food banks are good for our economy?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Mr. Speaker, Food Banks Canada conducts important research, and they also make very important recommendations for governments. They say that we should strengthen the social safety net to support Canadians facing affordability challenges. So we're doing that with dental care, with the middle-class tax cut, with Build Canada Homes, with $10 a day childcare. Those things are making a difference in Canadians' lives, and the Conservatives voted against every single one of those measures. Are the Conservatives content to just keep pointing fingers, or are they going to make some recommendations? Maybe read the report from the experts, like food bankers across the country, serving Canadians.
Okay, so first off, hat tip to our MP, Ned Curick, from Hamilton East Stony Creek. It's always great to cover him in the House. Second of all, Adam Van Couverden. This is the guy, everybody, who called Pierre Poilievre a existential threat to democracy. Let's just remember that this is the type of guy that we're dealing with here. So I automatically don't believe anything that's coming out of his mouth. And third, you can't break an entire economy and then say, oh, people are telling us to improve the social safety net. Okay, so rather than give people jobs, rather than actually stabilize the economy, all you want to do is literally spend more. Spend, 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 spend. This is what the Liberals and the NDP have been doing for the last 5 years, and they want to continue doing that. You cannot spend your way out of bankruptcy, folks.
No, you can't. And I just find it interesting that Ada Van Couverden was the one to respond to this question, because he's the Secretary of State for Sport. They didn't have anybody on economy answer this question. They didn't have anybody like in agriculture answer this question. It was the Secretary of State for Sport. And I didn't realize it when we were there, because we were in the opposition gallery, which is above the Liberal bench, like where the Liberals sit. So I couldn't see how many of them were there or not there, but looking at the video now, I can see that there was a whole bunch of them missing. So I'm guessing that he was the only one available to answer that question.
The honourable member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
Nicole from the Stony Creek Food Bank informed my office that 1 in 4 households need to visit a food bank. 1 in 3 individuals walking in are children. They were serving 30 to 40 families per day before the summer, now 55 to 65 per day. That's up 71% since spring. Quote, Christmas season demand without Christmas level donations. Canadians were promised food prices would decrease, but they've gone up. Would the Prime Minister please explain to the good people of Stony Creek why this promise was broken?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Speaker, when I take the time to sit down with food bankers and experts in poverty reduction right across the country, they make recommendations. They talk about strengthening our social safety net and making sure that there's services like EI available to Canadians. Mr. Speaker, we've also got challenges with northern food insecurity, and that is something that we are working on directly on the advice of experts in poverty reduction. So again, I'll ask, will the Conservatives just continue to point fingers or make some real recommendations? Maybe perhaps read the food bank's report, garner a little bit of insight from the experts on the front lines, and work together to end this crisis.
The crisis that the Liberals caused. And I don't want to put down northern food insecurity, because that's a whole different beast. Very, very different, but it is shocking to me to see this sort of food insecurity in the cities, in our own backyard in Stony Creek. And you have 1 in 4 families needing to use the food bank, and the food bank cannot keep up with demand. Like, this is not how Canada is supposed to be.
Well, and here's an expert opinion on poverty reduction. Jobs. Give Canadians jobs. If you give Canadians jobs, guess what? You don't have to rely on EI. But that was his solution here. Well, you know, that's the solution to job insecurity or to food insecurity is to give them EI. And you heard the heckling and say, how about jobs?
Well, and it completely ignores the fact that food is so expensive because a lot of these taxes being placed on food because of the food inflation. Beef was up, what was it, 33%? That's huge.
And we're seeing that at the grocery stores. All of you are seeing this at the grocery stores. We've seen post after post after post of what it was, and we're seeing it on Facebook. We're seeing it everywhere.
And that's due, at least in part, to the industrial carbon tax.
Right. And the issue is, this is the scary part, and I think every Canadian knows this, is that the only reason why food banks work is because everyday Canadians are donating food to the food banks. What happens when the everyday Canadian can no longer afford to donate food to the food banks?
Right. What happens when you only have enough money to feed your family? Then unfortunately you have to stop giving help to others.
Right.
And that's where we are right now.
And then all of these people who rely on those food banks, they no longer have food. So this is the idiotic answers that are coming from the Liberal government, and they're acting like this is new. They're acting like they just took over, but they've literally caused this over the last 10 years. But to end this on a lighter note, something happened in question period today that was rather unexpected. I would say the most chaotic question of the day did not come from the Conservatives, it did not come from the Bloc, it did not come from the NDP. It came from the Liberals themselves.
The honourable member for Peterborough.
Speaker, residents of my riding have contacted me and my team to express their frustrations with the delays they experience when they try to contact the CRA. We know that the dedicated employees of the CRA provide valuable services.
Sorry, I couldn't hear anything, so I think the member will have to start from the top, if she doesn't mind. From the top, please. Maybe in a minute, but from the top for sure. So from the top.
Mr. Speaker, residents of my riding have contacted me and my team to express their frustrations with the delays they experience when contacting the CRA. We know that the dedicated employees of the CRA provide a valuable service.
It was so loud in there.
It was so hilarious in there. I could not stop laughing. I was almost crying. And we're not even through this yet. But even the MP who was trying to ask the question, she was laughing because of the reaction of the Conservatives, and even the Speaker. He was trying to stop himself from laughing because it was just so funny. It was so funny on the fact that the Conservatives were cheering that, oh my goodness, the Liberals are actually calling out a problem in their own government.
Needs to be improved. Could the Secretary of State for the CRA and financial institutions inform this House of the measures taken by the government to improve services delivery at the CRA?
The Honourable It's nice to see such unity in the House. The Secretary of State for Financial Institutions and the CRA.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for that great question. Mr. Speaker, delays at CRA call centers are completely unacceptable. We all know that.
So, again, I'm not 100% sure how empty the Liberal benches were because we were on top of them, so we couldn't see them. But the Conservative benches were almost entirely full. I would say there was maybe, at most, 20 Conservatives missing, and that is probably overestimating it. So you had at least 124 Conservatives standing up and cheering and with the heckling, and it was wild.
and everyone was just laughing, and you heard the Liberal MP think, they don't even want to hear the answer. They don't even want to hear the answer. No, the Conservatives are just like, hey. And remember what I said when we did our coverage of Wayne Long talking to Vashi, where he shouldn't be saying that, oh yeah, everything's broken and things can't get any worse. This is the repercussions of some of these things is they come full circle, and then they come flying back at you when you least expect it. And Wayne's just like, I don't even know what to say here.
The honourable member may continue.
My first standing ovation, thank you. But seriously,
What happens when there's interruptions like this is I can't really follow the clock, so I have no control over how much time I give for the answer. So with the Secretary of State for Financial Institutions and the CRA, I'd like to start from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, we all know that the delays Canada faces, Canadians face at CRA call centers is completely unacceptable. It's not on the CRA employees. They are world-class public servants. This is a systemic failure that's unfolded over decades.
The heckling was next level.
It was good today.
So when he's saying this is a systemic failure, and then you heard the Conservatives roll of the Liberal government.
So good.
And Wayne Long, he's just trying to get through this answer, and he just can't. And remember, this is a scripted question and a scripted answer, folks.
Right, because it was a Liberal who asked.
Right, this is supposed to be bang bang. This is supposed to be a win for the Liberals, and this is just turning into a disaster.
We've implemented a 100-day plan to improve service and access and eliminate.
Is the honourable member, did the honourable member finish his answer? Stand up again.
It's your questions you're losing. It's your questions you're losing.
Mr. Speaker, in all seriousness, Canadians from coast to coast to coast are frustrated with CRA call center delays. I know that. This is not on CRA employees. They're world-class public servants. This is systemic failure over decades. That's why we're implementing a 100-day plan.
That's right.
To improve service and accessibility, and we're going to eliminate delays.
That's right.
The Union of Taxation Employees and the Taxpayers Ombudsman also have expressed support. I'm going to work with CRA leadership. I'm going to hold them accountable. We are going to fix this. Thank you.
You know, after Wayne Long had said that this was, caused over decades, one of the Conservatives, I don't know who, just shouted out, no, it was the last 10 years. Like, the heckling was top notch today.
I was just
great.
laughing and laughing and laughing, and you could hear in even Wayne Long's voice, he was almost laughing because the Conservatives were just heckling so well, and you heard the colleagues say, well, you're just going to lose your question. The Conservatives were just like, hey, we're fine with that because we're getting more value out of Wayne Long right here.
Well, and that's the thing. They were destroying the answer to this question, because if it had been, like Ryan said previously, just like bang, question, bang, answer, it would have been more effective. But because the Conservatives were cheering and Wayne Long was getting flustered and there were interruptions, Speaker was having him start again, all this stuff, it really takes away from the answer.
And just the most important part of Wayne's answer was this part where he says, well, this is because, the problems existed for decades. Okay. You've had 10 years. That's half a generation. You've had half a generation to address the CRA. This is no longer a decades-old problem. This is a Liberal problem through and through. People would have started and left the CRA in terms of their careers at this point. This is all on you. This is not a decades problem. And I think this is kind of what we're going to be seeing from this fall session, is just the Conservatives calling out the insanity as they see it. And here's the thing to note about today. Even the Liberals had to laugh at their performance because of how bad it really is.